I'm reading from her shoulder and it's reading my text. No, you forgot. I did. So that's I have to speak with reaction. It was that's so cute. She was thorough. I do. I know April way too well. Oh, good thing now.
All right, good morning, everyone. Okay, take attendance. Brianna, Bria, Drew, Henry, Anna, Nick, Abby, Hannah, here. Rosa, here. Matt, here. Jillian, Mia. Oh, Mia's gone. Annie, Bree, Brandon, here. Katie, here. Jessica, here. Jessie, William, Marissa, here. Anna, Sophia, Matthias, here. Colin, here. Olivia, here. Brayden, here. Amber, here. Katie, here. Kennedy, Ben, here. Ava, here. Kendall, here. Emily, here. Lauren, here. Jennifer, here. Isabel, here. Corwin, here. Okay. So we'll continue with this lecture today on food microbiology, and then the next couple of weeks, what we'll be learning about is a very small glimpse into immunology, innate immunity, adaptive immunity, pathogenesis, epidemiology, all of those things. Your final exam is, I believe, May 1st for this class. I'll give you guys more details on it. It'll be same, it won't be cumulative, it'll just be on Unit 4. And so keep in mind that we also have a couple more labs, and then on April 22nd, I believe, is a Tuesday, and that's going to be the last lab, and it's going to be a practical exam. So that's why you guys have your notebooks. You guys should have been taking great notes in there. And the practical exam is probably, I haven't written it up yet, but it's going to be part theory, meaning you answer, questions on a piece of paper, and then the other part will be technique. So I will be testing some of the techniques that we practice a lot from the beginning of the semester until now. And I'll give you some sort of, idea of what I'll be asking on it, but just want to get you guys aware and to start thinking about the next two final, bigger exams for this class. So another reminder is that the lab grade is going to be added into the lecture grade, so anything the lab grade should help you, shouldn't hurt you if you guys have been showing up. I'm not grading you guys in lab based on how well you're doing things. If you're present and you're participating, I'm giving you points for those labs. If you're not present and you do the makeup, I'm giving you full points. So those are easy points for you guys to be able to stack on top of your grade in lecture. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so we talked a little bit about some of the factors that basically influence the growth rate of microbes in food. So we talked about nutrients in the food. If the the pH of the food is very acidic, then you would expect it to be contaminated, if it is contaminated with a fungus rather than a bacteria. Because remember, fungi are able to withstand a little bit more acidic pHs than bacteria do. There's also water content, water availability, that's going to influence, what is going to be able to grow there. So if you have a piece of banana bread and you have a morning breakfast bar, which one do you guys think would be more likely to get contaminated if you left them both out at room temperature? Rosa, what do you think? Banana bread? Yeah, because the banana bread is more moist and the breakfast bar is more dry, and so that moist environment is going to allow for microbes to grow. We talked about some foods and spices and herbs that actually have these antimicrobial chemicals that are produced. Yeah, that's why for me, I keep my herbs for years and years and they don't go bad because they're naturally going to be producing these products that help preserve food. For biological barriers, remember I gave the example of when apples or pumpkins rot, it's that external covering layer that protects from invasion. So the extrinsic factors that we'll talk about are, basically these warm environments, microbes like warmth. That's why we put things in the incubator and we turn it up to 37 degrees Celsius, which makes it really warm, and that's because it helps the microbes grow faster. Same with oxygen-rich environments. A lot of the microbes are going to, be able to grow a lot more quickly if they have exposure to oxygen. Not to say that they can't grow under low oxygen or anaerobic, no oxygen conditions. Especially if we talked about the canning process, helping to preserve food and the quality, and so if the canned food's improperly canned, that is really bad, you shouldn't eat it. So some of those extrinsic factors include storage temperature, oxygen levels, humidity. So where are these extrinsic factors most important? Where would you want to make sure that all of these things are very well regulated? What kind of a situation would you be in? Who sells food? Grocery stores. Where else do you guys eat? Restaurants, bars, grocery stores, all of those. These extrinsic factors are so important. If one of these things goes bad, you completely are putting everyone at risk. You have to shut everything down. So it's really, really important to maintain these things. Like we said, storage temperature affects the rate of microbial growth. A lot of restaurants have freezers, so they, basically try to freeze things so that results in the metabolic activity of the microbes to be stopped. And so obviously the atmospheric conditions like oxygen, presence or absence will affect things, and then the moisture will promote the growth of spoilage. Questions so far? So how can food be preserved longer? Some of those methods I mentioned: canning, pasteurization, cooking, refrigeration, freezing, or drying, like reducing the water availability. The goal is to prevent the growth and limit metabolic activity of microbes that can cause spoilage and foodborne illnesses. So these methods will interfere with both intrinsic and extrinsic factors. This is just a list of them, and so here I go into a little bit more detail. When you cook, you're applying really high heat, and that can destroy organisms that cannot withstand the heat. So usually spore-forming organisms, like Bacillus megaterium, we worked with that in the lab, we did a spore stain. Usually we talked about how spores are an adaptability mechanism that organisms make in order to be able to survive really harsh environments like high temperatures. So bacteria or fungi that can make spores can be put under high temperatures but still be able to survive. So cooking can destroy non-spore forming organisms. Cooking obviously will alter the characteristic of the food. If the heat is uneven, some organisms may survive in the undercooked portion of food. So that is something that's so important when you're cooking. You want to make sure that the heat is even. If you're cooking a steak and it's really thick in the center and it's thinner on the edges, you want to make sure that it's being cooked thoroughly and evenly. Refrigeration obviously will preserve food by slowing the growth of organisms that can spoil it. Some of them are still able to multiply at low temperatures. There's always exceptions to the rule. And so one step up would be freezing. That will stop microbial growth to an extent for most of them. The water, basically because of the ice formation in a freezer, that stops water from being available because it's all frozen. And so water content and humidity and all that is going to influence the rate that microbes can grow. So freezing helps with minimizing that. Drying or reducing water availability, again, inhibits microbial growth by decreasing the available moisture. Molds may grow eventually, so molds are more so fungi, so that's why they are able to still grow even under lower water availability. Radiation is another way where you can radiate or apply, some sort of radiation to fruit, for instance, like a radiated fruit, and that will damage the DNA for the microbes. So that will also kill the microbes. This one is not necessarily used as often as the others. Any questions so far? Okay, well that's food. What about liquids? How do we make sure that the liquids don't, get spoiled? Well, for liquids, we have a couple of mechanisms as well. We can filter the liquid, but remember, when you're filtering a liquid from these microbes, if we're trying to filter out bacteria, those might be able to get filtered out. But viruses are smaller than bacteria for the most part, and so those will just go right through the filter. The normal filter size is 0.2 microns, so that won't remove viruses. So filtering is a method to help eliminate or remove pathogens, potential pathogens, but it won't remove viruses. Heating is obviously another way. You can heat liquids, but that depends on the temperature. So you can even boil it, and if it makes spores, it's going to be difficult to kill it. So endospores or spores are the same thing. There's different types of heating methods based on the temperature and how long you keep it under heat. And the first one we're going to talk about, so here's the definition you guys should know: pasteurization. It's the process of heating a liquid for a specific period of time to destroy pathogenic microbes. Pasteurization is developed by Louis Pasteur. You guys may have heard of him before, hence the name. And he developed this to improve wine storage quality. So in the late 1800s, this was applied to milk because there was commercial production of milk, and so they would pasteurize it. And so this kind of is what started the process of pasteurization for milk. There's different types of pasteurizations depending on, what that specific period of time is and the temperature that you put it at. But just to kind of take you through a little bit of history, the reason was that they started pasteurizing milk is because they saw that, there was a high mortality rate in infants in the late 1800s. And they noticed that it was from milk-borne illnesses. So 1 in 4 infants, 25%, were dying. So as society became more industrialized, they increased milk production, and that distribution led to more outbreaks of milk-borne diseases. And so some of those illnesses were typhoid fever, undulant fever, which is brucellosis, scarlet fever, septic sore throat, which is strep throat, diphtheria, diarrheal diseases. You don't have to remember any of these as being associated with milk-borne illnesses, but you guys should know, kind of the background as to why pasteurization became a thing in milk. And so in 1918, Alice Evans, she was able to show that drinking unpasteurized milk could transmit the bacteria that causes this disease, brucellosis, Brucella abortus, from domestic farm animals to humans. So she saw that this bacteria could be transmitted from the animal to humans. And so that's why pasteurization became mandatory for all milk sold within Chicago. And so in 1947, Michigan became the first state to require that all milk for sale within the state be pasteurized. So that's a fun fact. Could be an extra credit question. And so I wanted to bring her up because a lot of books and things will just mention this guy, Louis Pasteur, but it's important to also appreciate the women that have contributed to some of these innovations as well. So in combination with improving management practices on farms, milk-borne illnesses were pretty much eliminated with the implementation of pasteurization. So in 1938, milk products were the source of 25% of all food and waterborne illnesses that could be traced. In 2016, they've accounted for far less than 1%. So we've definitely made headway there. Okay, any questions? So like I said, there's different types of pasteurization depending on the temperature and the length of time that you pasteurize it for. So ultra pasteurization basically holds the milk at a temperature of 140 degrees Celsius, 284 Fahrenheit, for 2 seconds. That's all you need. Then you refrigerate it and you get extended storage. There's ultra heat treating, which holds the milk at a temperature of same temperature, but you just increase it a couple seconds, 4 to 15 seconds. And now you're not necessarily pasteurizing it, you're sterilizing it. So there's a difference between pasteurization and sterilization. So this you can basically store things for several months without refrigeration. So you guys should know the difference between these. These are kind of like the two different ends of the spectrum. There are a lot of in-betweens. So you don't have to memorize all of these, but just so you guys are aware, there are different temperatures. You can even pasteurize at a lower temperature, but for a longer time. And so this one, the last one in red, is the ultra high temperature UHT. And so this one results in sterilization, not pasteurization. So you guys should know that. So if something is going to be put in the fridge, you want to pasteurize it. But if you want something to be stored on the shelf at room temperature, you probably want to sterilize it, and usually this is done by this ultra high temperature pasteurization. So if it's just pasteurized, like juices, it still needs to be refrigerated. Many different products sold at the market can be pasteurized beside milk, like fruit juices, almonds, ciders, and some beers. Okay, so I gave you the definition for pasteurization. There's one more for you. This is straight from Wikipedia, but sterilization means that you're eliminating, removing, killing, or deactivating all forms of life and biological agents that are present in the compound. So that could be fungi, bacteria, a virus, spores, prions, any eukaryotic organisms. Everything is being eliminated. That's why sterile technique is really important in the lab. So if I were to ask you a question that says, we want to basically remove, the organisms that are present in this liquid, and we put it through a 0.2 micron filter, what will it not remove? Yeah, the viruses, yep. So you guys should be able to, make out those types of situations. If I were to ask you that there is a spore-forming bacteria that we put under, just this first one, 30 minutes at 63 degrees Celsius, is it going to kill for sure that spore-forming bacteria? No. Okay, so you guys are getting it, great. All right, I'm actually cutting this food microbiology section down. Last semester or last year, I taught it and I gave a lot more information on the different types of foodborne illnesses and intoxications that can happen. I am cutting that out this time around. I felt that was really, people were really stumbling up on that. But we'll switch a little bit over on Wednesday and we'll talk some more about innate immunity. I think that's interesting for you guys, and yeah, we'll go from there. Is there any questions?
Away game on Wednesday, so I'm not sure if the field is that before, but usually it'd be either 2 hours or an hour, but what time the away game is.
Okay.
I was wondering if you could send the lab makeup.
Yes. Amber asked me right before class. No,
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I will do that. Is it?
Hannah and May. Do you need the lab makeup for tomorrow or no? Okay, so just me, Hannah, and Amber.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you.